Anyhow, Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan is the man who would be speaker, right? So who is this guy and what's going on with him? Well, first off, this would be a danger to our republic and an embarrassment to America in front of the world if Jim Jordan becomes the Speaker of the House. He's, 2 steps away from being president. He's second in line from being the president. The first in line, of course, being the vice president. God forbid if anything was to happen to both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, then Donald Trump's boy here, Jim Jordan, his hand-picked speaker candidate, would be president of the United States. And I just can't imagine anything that would be worse for this country. So who is Jim Jordan? Well, Trump is a convicted rapist and sexual predator. And now the Republicans, if they put Jim Jordan in, they want to put in a guy who is accused of covering up the same kind of stuff. You would have thought that after Denny Hastert went to prison for that the Republicans would figure out this isn't a good look, but apparently not. Trump is an unrepentant liar who continues to lie every day. In fact, by the way, he's in court. I mean, he's not actually in the courtroom, but his lawyers are in court in New York today, or in D.C. today it's in New York, before Judge Tanya Chutkan. And the question is, does she issue a gag order, right? And the Trump lawyers came out and said, he's just exercising his First Amendment rights. There's been no problem. And she literally laughed at them. Anyhow, here you've got Trump constantly lying. Well, Jim Jordan constantly lies too, and he does it loudly and he does it publicly. I included a list in my op-ed over at HartmannReport.com today of all the ways and times that Jordan has lied. In 2020, before the election even happened, he claimed that Democrats were fixing to steal it. Donald Trump was saying the same thing, by the way, at the time. He's taking Trump and Putin's side in defending the Russian terrorist attack on Ukraine. He's promoting the Russian lie that then Vice President Biden got a Ukrainian prosecutor fired to help out his son. In fact, it was the opposite. He got him fired because he wasn't successfully prosecuting Burisma. He's argued that Social Security and Medicare must be reformed, must be cut, rather than raising taxes on rich people. He's trying to blow up Fani Willis's investigation of Trump's crimes down in Georgia. He's siding with Trump and his Republican conspiracy to overthrow our government on January 6th. In fact, I'll get to that. He's telling false stories about Hunter Biden's laptop. He's smeared Robert Mueller and Rod Rosenstein in an effort to impeach Rosenstein. He advanced a strategy to gin up an impeachment effort against President Biden, which he is running right now. He's supporting a corrupt strategy by Wisconsin Republicans to impeach their Chief Justice. He's helping cover up revelations of fraud in Donald Trump's tax returns. He's participating in the center of a conspiracy to storm the Capitol and then voting not to certify Biden as the legal winner. He alleged that the Biden administration is targeting Catholics for punishment by the IRS, and he smeared the IRS in their efforts to get billionaires to pay their taxes. But don't just take it from me. Here's what Liz Cheney, who is no Democratic shill, had to say about Jim Jordan. Quote, Jim Jordan was involved in Trump's conspiracy to steal the election and seize power. He urged that Pence refuse to count lawful electoral votes. If Republicans nominate Jordan to be Speaker, they'll be abandoning the Constitution. She adds, Jim Jordan knew more about what Donald Trump had planned for January 6th than any other member of the House of Representatives. And then the January 6th committee subpoenaed Jim Jordan, and he refused to show up for the subpoena. He's in contempt of Congress. He's not in jail, but he's in contempt of Congress. Former Speaker of the House John Boehner said, I never saw a guy who spent more time tearing things apart, never building anything, never putting anything together. And in fact, he's been in Congress for 16 years, has authored 4 pieces of legislation. None of them have passed. Not a single bill that Jim Jordan has authored has become law. He crashed that skiff. Remember that, the secure place during the Trump impeachment hearings around his efforts to blackmail Zelensky. Jim Jordan led a bunch of people in there with cell phones, which is completely wrong, completely illegal. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. His voting record is obscene. He voted against the For the People Act, against the Idea Funding Act, against Protecting Infants from Formula Act, against the Secure Background Checks Act, against fighting homelessness, against the Honoring Family-Friendly Workplaces Act, against the Reins Act, against the Mental Health Access and Gun Violence Prevention Act, against the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, against the Violence Against Women Act, against the Assault Weapons Ban, against Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment, against community service block grants, against extending government funding, against the John R. Lewis Freedom to Vote Act, against resources to communities in need, against the Workplace Innovation and Opportunity Act, against the Mental Health Matters Act, against the Infant Formula Supplemental Appropriations Act, against the Protecting Our Kids Act, against ensuring a fair and accurate census act, against the Respect for Marriage Act, against the Mental Health Justice Act. I think you're getting it, right? Jim Jordan is he's never accomplished anything legislatively. All he does is vote against things that actually help the people. His only focus is trashing Democrats with half-truths and lies and supporting tax cuts for billionaires. That's what this guy does. That's who he is. That's what he's all about. The Cleveland Plain Dealer, their former editorial director, wrote, quote, "Placing second in line of presidential succession, a man willing to besmirch everything America stands for in service of Trump by rights should prove too risky for many of the House's Republican members." Right. And, we'll see where this goes. But Jim Jordan is no friend to the American people. He's, a good friend to Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, apparently, but no friend to the American people. Now, there is a story that, well, actually, I've got a couple more pieces that go along with this Jordan story. I'll tell you about that right after the break. It's 16 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Talk media for the rest of us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.